Hello again. Welcome to Coding with Drew. In this section, we're going to learn about markup versus markdown, and we're going to actually start learning to code in Markdown. First, what you need to know is what markup is. Markup is a standard text encoding system consisting of a set of symbols inserted into a text document to control its structure, formatting, or the relationship between its individual parts. And markup is a superset of different languages related to documents. And superset, subset. What you need to know is HTML or browser web pages that you're looking at, like this one. These are HTML or hypertext markup language. HTML is a topic that we're going to discuss in a future section. For now, Markdown, much more simple to use and learn. And this is great language to document your code. You can also use it on your portfolio. Visual Studio Code, we're going to open it up and we're going to open our dev directory. And if you haven't already, click File, Open, and you're going to click your dev and open. So inside of this, we're going to create a directory within a directory. And so the first directory is going to be called Markup. You click this folder with a plus, so Markup, and inside of it, we're going to call Markdown. And then we're going to create a new file, and it's going to be called cheatsheet.md. Now, .md is a file extension, and this tells the IDE or browser or whatever that this is a Markdown file. And as soon as I save, you can see that it already recognized this is a Markdown file, and it's going to use Prettier to format the text. If you haven't already, you need to add Markdown all-in-one and Prettier and your extensions. You can click the extensions, do a search for Markdown all-in-one and Prettier. So if you press Command V, it will close that little sidebar. I'm going to full screen this so you can get a better view. The next thing we're going to do is up here on the top right, click this preview button. Now, this will allow you to view the changes you make over here on the right side, but you cannot edit the right side. This is just a preview. So what you need to know is on Word documents from like Microsoft Word or Google Docs, every one of them has a header section, footer section, and a body. We create headers to identify subsections or sections. So the first section, which would be an H1 or the first header, is identified with the hashtag. So this is H1. And you can see on the right side what it created. So this H1 header. We'll say header. And you can see it puts up a horizontal line. And if I type here, it's going to be in a regular font, in a normal paragraph. We don't want to, in Markdown, we don't want to have different types of text or different formats on the line after each other. So you always want to space them out. So the next one is going to be an H2, which is pretty easy because it's just two hashtags. H2 header. I put a ampersand, H2 header. And then we have H3. You guessed it, it's 3 hashtags. And it goes all the way down to H5. Now, each one of these headers is a subheader of the other. So there should only be one H1 in an entire document. There can be many H2s underneath the H1. H3s should not live in the H1. They should always be underneath the H2, and so on and so forth. This is just basic formatting. That's all we're doing. All right, so next we want to create a paragraph. This is a paragraph. Note that there's nothing fancy about what we have done to format this as a paragraph. It just identifies it as a paragraph. Now remember when I said that you have to space everything on a line? Let's say this is a paragraph period, and I wanted to be on a new line and say, hey, if you look over here, it didn't put it on a new line. The reason is because we need an extra space. Now, what we're going to do is get some lorem ipsum. If you're not familiar with lorem ipsum, so I'm going to, in Google, going to go to the first result, and we're just going to copy this. It's just gibberish. I believe it's in Latin, but it doesn't actually mean anything. We're just going to copy it and paste it into our Visual Studio Code. Here's a second paragraph, and what you can see is that there's a bunch of text. Let's say we want to highlight, we want to make this bold. The easiest way to do that is to highlight the word and press Command B. And what you can see is it added stars on both sides, and on the right-hand side, you can see that it is bold. You can also make text italicized by adding an underscore in front and behind the text. So you can see it updated on the right-hand side here, and all of this is italic. Now, another thing you can do is you can add markup inside of this. So real HTML works here as well. What we want to learn is how to add a hyperlink or a link that works. And the way you do this is with a bracket followed by parentheses. Inside the first bracket is a prettier version of the hyperlink. This is what you want to show, not the google.com. So what you can see over here is this is actually a link. If I click it, it'll take me to google.com. So what we're going to end up doing is making this a link. This a link. All right, so our cheat sheet is coming together. We have headers, we have paragraphs, we've identified how to make things bold or italic. We've also learned how to make a link. What if we wanted to add an image? And a GIF are the same. So let's go to giphy.com. And let's pick a trending one. Let's say this one. All right, so we'll go to this one. Just click on it. You see a share link here. Just click copy GIF link. And then if we go back to our Visual Studio Code, we can add that link in our text by doing it this way. Put a parentheses around it, and in front of it, put the brackets, just like you did a regular link. And you don't see anything here because you don't have a pretty link in front of it. So there's nothing this is a GIF. All right. So if I click on it, it'll take me to that web page, but I want to display it on the right. So all I have to do is make it call that automatically by going to the front of this and typing an exclamation mark. And so you can see that GIF now displays on the right. The same process for images. You put an image link there. So we're going to give it another space. And now we're going to learn about tables. So let's scroll down a little bit. So tables are done with what's called fencing. And fences look like this. It's a vertical bar. If you're not sure where that key is, it's Shift, and then you press the key just above the return key. It's the same key as the backslash. A fence looks like this. And I messed it up. It should have three tabs, 3 dashes in between each fence post. And until again, there you go. So this is a fence post. And right now you can see that's actually not doing anything. And this is because we have to actually put something above and below it. So above it, we say this is column 1, and then separate that with a fence post, column 2, fence post, column 3, fence post, column 4, fence post. And so now on the right-hand side, we can see that it's made it into a table, data. So the way you add data to each line is like this. So same way as you made the header, you do a fence post, row A1, or 1A, 1B, or so this is actually 1B, 1C, 1D. And if we look on the right-hand side, it's now a table. Now this looks really terrible. since we have the all-in-one Markdown extension, you need to press Option Shift F. And this will pop up. There are multiple formatters for Markdown files. Please select the default formatter. We're going to click Configure, and we're going to select Markdown All-in-One. So now what you can see is this is much more readable. And continue on doing it just like you did before. Row 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D. And you don't even need the end fence posts, just the ones in between your data. So we'll press Option Shift F again, and it auto formatted it. Now you can see we have 2 rows. I spelled it Rob, row 2A. And that's how you make a table. You can comment out things in Markdown and most other languages in Visual Studio Code with simple command stroke with command key and /. So if you highlight it and you press /, it will comment it out. In Markup, Markdown languages, you can comment any code, and all comment does is it makes it so that it's visible in the code, and so if somebody was reviewing your code, or you needed to make notes in your code for other people to read, but not necessarily be visible to the computer that's reading it, you do that with comments. So this is the same for Markup, Markdown. It's a less than, exclamation mark, dash, and then you close it out at the end with a dash greater than sign. So since we've got that figured out, we're now going to add some code. And the way I'm going to go about this is actually just copy my lorem ipsum again. And a couple ways to do this. The first way is to use tick marks, backtick. This is the key right underneath escape. It is not your single quote. I don't know if you can see the difference, but the backtick kind of has an angle to it, and the single quote has a vertical line. So the backtick, if you put anything inside of it, so this is a code block. You can see that it's in a slightly different pre-formatted type, and this stands out from other text. You typically only want to use this when you're identifying code as a general format, but it's not a hard and fast rule. You can really use it anywhere you want to highlight whatever. The other way is to do a full code block. It's 3 ticks, and you can see on the right-hand side, it's already made the code block, and you close it out with 3 ticks. So anything you put inside of it, we're going to copy the lorem ipsum again and specify that this is a 3-tick block quote. All right. Another way to do this exact same thing, if we press return, we can tab anything we write. This is a tab. Now you have another block quote. It's slightly different, but the same. Let's say you want to add a quote. A greater than sign, the space, makes whatever precedes a quote. And now we're going to come over here, show our emojis. You can also access this with Control Command Spacebar. And we're going to pick a light bulb. There it is. There's the light bulb. This is a quote. And see how it presents itself on the right-hand side. Now, this is a pretty neat feature with Visual Studio Code. So at the end of this line, if you just press return, it's going to make another block quote. You make this a multi-line block quote by just carrying your text over and further, and it'll just be larger on the right-hand side because it's reading this on the left, but it's formatting it on the right. The next thing we're going to learn about is ordered lists and unordered lists. So ordered lists, you're probably familiar with these. This is an order. Another interesting or cool feature is that you can do the same thing you start with whatever number you're planning on starting with. So let's say I want to skip number 6 and I go to 7. Start with 7. 7. I say this is 0 list. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So when I pressed enter, it automatically started at 8. But you can also do this, which will help you when you're making some kind of text. On the right-hand side, you can see that it automatically assumed that you did not mean to skip number 6. And this is because it's an ordered list. So we're going to come back over to here, add zeros, and you can see that it automatically keeps the same order. It does not care what you put. So I like to just use zeros. The next type is a bulleted list. There's 2 different ways to do this. You can use star, bullet, or you can do a dash bullet. Now, they both present exactly the same. This is entirely up to you. And you can make these nested by just tabbing in. This is a nested. Now you are a Markdown professional. Feel free to make your own version of this cheat sheet on your own, and then save it in that directory. And the way you save files in Visual Studio Code is press Command Option S, and it'll save all files that are open. You can now add Markdown to your resume. I hope you enjoyed this section. I look forward to seeing you in the next.